Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. It is Monday. Yes, you know what that means. We talk to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Greg Dickerson. How you doing, sir?
Doing great, Michael. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. So thank you so much for that education on what's going on in the crypto space. It was very, very helpful in episode number 1, folks. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I asked about this ETF and what's happening in futures and spot, and Greg just enlightened me. So go check that out. But what I want to talk about here, Greg, is actually consumer psychology, consumer confidence, because what I see going on in China specifically is something that I think is almost predictable at this point. So I've been tracking the consumer for 30 years. They are a fickle bunch, but they usually move in a pack. They're either greedy or conservative or afraid altogether. And if you can see where the pack is moving, you can see what happens next. What do you think?
Yeah, we all think we're so unique and individual, but at the same token, we kind of have the same patterns, right? And the same thought processes. But yeah, I mean, consumer sentiment is a big thing. And, obviously the majority of the people generally feel one way or the other about the economy, about their spending, about their habits. So that's an extremely important thing to track. And it can give you, that's one of the leading indicators on economic activity and where we're headed.
Yeah. I mean, if I had one metric, if you could tell me about the future, like what the consumer was thinking in 2023, I could make investments today, right? That's how important it is to me. So what I want to do is
markets, right? So, and especially the bond market, the bond market is probably the closest thing you have to the retail consumer sentiment in the financial markets.
You're right. Yeah, you're totally agree. I watched the 10-year just this morning pop over 1.61 again. So that you're so dead on. That's kind of Wall Street's thermometer, if you will, right? But I want to talk about what's going on in China, because I don't think a lot of people really understand what's happening at the grassroots, right? A billion, I'm not even sure how big their population is, 1.2 billion, 1.3 billion. So if we go back to kind of let's talk about, July of this year and before. In China, if you were kind of middle class and above, you believe that property values, much like we did in 06. So let's not pretend like this is unique to China. We did it in 06. Property values never fall, right? There was that saying, the average middle class Chinese citizen owned 1.5 homes. That is an amazing stat. They used it as a form of wealth, a form of status. And a lot of these homes were frankly not lived in, right? They were owned. They were not rental income like we do here. It was just a store of wealth. That is the timber that has now been sparked and is going to become a problem. So that's kind of the setup, I think. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's really interesting because China limited their population for so long. They would only let you have 1 kid or 2 kids or whatever it was, and but at the same time they were building, and it didn't somehow occur to them that, if we don't have more kids, we're not going to be able to fill these buildings. But it's funny. They just did an episode on 60 Minutes recently that now, China understands that their economy is struggling. They don't have enough people. They have all this excess, property and everything. So now they're trying to encourage families in China to have more kids, but they don't want it now. They don't want to have more kids. They don't want to have 3 and 4, because of a lot of different reasons. But number one, inflation, it's expensive. Number 2, competition for, schools and activities and resources for the kids and, things like that. But the biggest thing is their economy is bad. And, the people there, you talk about consumer sentiment, they don't want to bring children into the population and, from an,
it's expensive
financial standpoint.
Yeah. It really hampers.
It's fascinating. And I still don't understand, why the leaders of China, why the CCP is doing what they're doing, like getting rid of the crypto industry in that market. I mean, I can sort of understand they don't want any competition for, the currency in their country, for, income in their country. They want to control all that. And they ultimately want to eliminate poverty by distributing wealth. I think that's ultimately the plan. But that was a huge industry that they got rid of that they could have easily reined in, that it's going to create a lot of value down the road. A lot of these companies that they're shutting down and getting out of there, LinkedIn, I think, turned off, or Microsoft is turned off.
The last social media, public social media, LinkedIn or Microsoft turned off LinkedIn China this weekend.
Yeah. And, and again, China, the CCP has had, a history of controlling the narrative there and, limiting outside influences. And,
Hmm.
to me, it just, you think that they would see at some point, wait a minute, this isn't working, but I don't think they realize that because they've grown so fast, so quickly
Yeah.
from an economic standpoint.
Yeah, they have created the problem. And there's another expert I speak with on Thursdays who has a lot of experience in Japan. And his opinion is China is set up at this, their best case scenario is a lost decade, a la Japan leaving the 80s into the 90s. And I think he's right. And again, what happened, the setup for this is it is going to be bad. It actually could make our Great Recession look tame. I think property values in China are going to fall like never before. And they're going to try to rein it in. And oh, by the way, oh my God, I can't believe I saw this over the weekend. Not only are they making owning property, a problem, right? Because you can't sell it. It's property prices are already falling. Now, Greg, they're going to institute property taxes. Into a falling real estate market, you're going to add property taxes. This is just going to break consumers. They're going to unload. They're going to see huge pricing. And again, like our market, where housing construction became a large part of a larger than normal part of the economy. Housing and construction in China is like 30% of their GDP. So if you turn that off,
it's huge. I mean, their GDP, well, the total value, is around 50 trillion plus or minus.
Wow.
Which is, twice the housing market in the United States.
Yeah.
Their population, just to answer that question, is somewhere around, where was that at? Like 1.5 billion or something.
Oh my
like
gosh.
that.
Yeah. Even bigger than I thought. Yeah.
It's huge, but, their GDP is 14.7 trillion. They have 1.4 billion people. So, I mean, it's huge country, but, they were just on this building tear. And, I remember years ago where they were showing entire cities as large as, almost as large as Manhattan, just vacant, just these huge cities. Vacant,
yeah. We were in Shanghai, I think it was 4 years ago. And one of the things we wanted to see, because I'm a real estate guy, right? So we picked, because my wife speaks the language. So we spoke to a cabbie and we asked to go see one of those. And he tried to pretend like they don't exist. And, Olivia speaking in Mandarin and, doing what she does. And he finally took us. It was like a movie. It was like one of those apocalyptic movies where you see these huge, like, I didn't count them, but they had to be 50 stories high. And there wasn't one of them. There was like 12 of them empty. It was crazy.
Yeah, maybe not as big as Manhattan, but if you take downtown San Francisco, that big,
easy.
Cities that big.
Oh, easy. Yeah, easy.
Just vacant. And, we saw the same thing, not like that, but we saw subdivisions back in 2008, 9. We had subdivisions with thousands of homes in this country vacant. Banks went in and just tore them down and turned them into, dirt again. So, they're doing that right now over there. They're tearing down cities that they built because there's no population for them.
Yeah.
So, they got a real problem. The other thing that's happening too is that their attitude towards, outside, companies, entities, that's causing an exodus where, manufacturers are looking to other countries to produce their goods, outside of China, because they're not sure if China's just going to come in and take them over and kick them out.
Yeah.
So they're looking to other countries. So I think this is a domino effect that they don't see coming, or they don't think it's a problem, that, they're just going to rein everything in and control it, the CCP. And, they're just slowly pushing, everybody else and everything else away that can potentially, keep them going. So their goal to become the number one economy in the world and all that, I mean, they're just shooting themselves in the foot left and right.
Yeah, no chance. The other thing that they're doing is they're treating not only foreign companies. What is even more apparent is they're treating foreign capital bad, right? They're paying back the bonds that are owned in China, but they're not paying back US dollar denominated bonds. And now that's not only one company, it's up to 7 or 8 companies. And those bonds now, they're trading at 20% interest. They are now junk status, 20% interest. And again, what I think happens very quickly is not only are foreign companies likely leaving, but foreign investment in China, done. Right. So they're There,
Yeah,
I
or
don't get it.
I mean, it'll be there, but it'll be super, super expensive,
Oh, yeah.
so it's going to cost them a lot of money. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, Japan was on a tear, for a long time there. They were buying everything everywhere, and then they just imploded.
Yeah,
And
they
a lot of
bought
it was
Pebble
real estate
Beach. I
driven.
remember. Yeah, they bought Pebble Beach for a
No, they were
record
buying all
price.
kinds of stuff, in the United States, and they wanted to buy all of our, trophy assets here. And,
Hmm.
so their real estate is what tanked them. Real estate's what tanked the United States at one point. And China has a problem with it now, but we don't know how big and how deep it goes. And when you think of like I just said, the value of their market's about 52 trillion, what is that? 5,000 billion.
Hmm. Yeah.
So you think about Evergrande, 300 billion. I mean, it's not really, big enough to make a dent, but now we're seeing more and more reports come out of other companies, a couple hundred million here, a billion there. We don't know how deep or how systemic it is and what their ability to contain that looks
Yeah,
like.
for me,
So,
it's not even about Evergrande anymore. Evergrande is a nothing, right? It'll be sold for parts. They own real stuff. Real stuff has value. It just won't, it'll be wiped off the map in 3 to 6 months. No one will care. But what they did is they damaged the psychology of 1.4 billion people. 1.4 billion people are already voting with their wallet. Alibaba, their Amazon, lowered Q4 earnings substantially because people have stopped shopping. I have the numbers from this morning. New home sales. And you got to remember, housing was 30% of their economy, down 19.7% in August, down 16.9% in September. And October is going to be ugly because a lot of the deals in August and September were signed earlier. October could be down 40%. Folks, it is going to be ugly in China.
yeah, interesting times, and we'll see what the contagion is around the world with that. But I think countries are already starting to pull out, isolate themselves, and prepare for what's coming. So, it'll be interesting. A lot of people speculate that's our black swan that's coming this time.
Yep.
That could affect the world, whereas last time it was the United States real estate market. I just don't know how exposed the rest of the world is with China. I don't think the U.S. is as much as some other countries.
Yeah. Yeah. Australia's got a really good, because again, Australia has the commodities that China was buying. If China starts buying, right there will be some contagion without question.
And I'll tell you, some China experts, is, obviously Ray Dalio, he's studied China and
Oh yeah,
for years and years and years. And, he's written a book on it. The new world order, he thinks China is going to take over, but I don't know what his opinion is here lately. It'd be interesting to see.
Not now.
And then, yeah. And then who is it? Jim Rogers.
Jim Rogers. That's the one. Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. He lives in Singapore, but he's an expert on China.
Yeah. I think he left the US like 15 years ago and he's teaching his kids Mandarin and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a good one. He can,
Jim
he's
Rogers,
a realist on,
I'm going to go find
what China is doing. He's been, outspoken lately about China and the moves they're making and, how they're kind of isolating themselves and cutting themselves off economically.
Correct.
From the rest of the world. And, really interesting. Yeah. And they seem to be gearing up for war, firing missiles and, testing missiles and just doing all these different things that they're doing. So, we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. So Greg, do me a favor. What is your channel? How can people find you? Because you put out amazing stuff every day.
Yeah. GregDickerson.com. Everything's there. YouTube channel, podcast, all my social media. Go check it out.
Yep. Do yourself a favor, folks. Watch his YouTube channel. He puts out amazing stuff, has experiences that I don't have. So that's why I follow and listen to his stuff while I'm working out usually. So thanks, Greg.
Working out. There you go.
There you go.